hits it in the air to center. We will see you tomorrow night.
Austin backpedals. Takes it at the 26. Here comes Tavon Austin. He's across midfield. Down the sideline. Austin stays and goes. Takes it all the way for a Rams touchdown.
Artest looking. Gets it to Bryant. Bryant dribbling. Has to put it up for the buzzer. Banks it in. Oh, he banks in the three. And the Lakers win the game.
Hey, how's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the first episode of Dodging Rams. This is a thing I've really wanted to start for a long time. It's almost like a little mini podcast or a talk show, just talking about sports. Now, the name Dodging Rams, it's really based around the St. Louis Rams. Obviously, if you guys don't know, I do live in St. Louis, so a lot of this stuff is going to be revolving around St. Louis sports. So the three teams that I like to talk about are the St. Louis Rams, the St. Louis Cardinals, and I'm also going to be talking about the Los Angeles Lakers. I don't know if you guys know this, but I also am a Lakers fan. I don't know a whole lot about hockey, so I won't be talking about the Blues a ton unless anything really big comes up. So I just wanted to just do this podcast just because I really want to start doing something like this. I mean, I've always wanted to do a podcast, and there's a couple things I wanted to talk about before I got into the nitty-gritty of the sports. I wanted to let you guys know that this is also an opportunity to hop on this podcast with me. If you guys want to be part of this, definitely let me know. Shoot me a message down on Twitter. My Twitter is @MikeMack. MikeMaacc. Links are in the description for my Twitter. If you guys want to be on this podcast, there's a couple things. I mean, just have some things to talk about for sports. If you have a favorite team, if you have some stuff you want to talk about in the NFL or the MLB or NBA or even the NHL, definitely bring some things to talk about. Also, you're going to want to have a fairly decent microphone. I don't want to have really, really bad quality on these podcasts. I want them to be very professional, very good, and just overall good quality. So if you have all those, or you think you have those, definitely let me know down in Twitter. Or if you don't have a Twitter, shoot a comment. Just type in a comment, and I'll be sure to check it out, look at it. If you guys have any stuff you want me to look at, definitely let me know. So first thing we're going to be talking about is the St. Louis Rams. And man, I mean, they're a team that not many people talk about, but they make a lot of news stories. I don't know if that really makes sense to you guys, but no one really thinks of the St. Louis Rams as a team that can really do any damage. But they end up doing a lot of damage to a lot of big teams. I remember last year they ended up beating up on the Broncos. This year they started out a win with Seattle. It's kind of crazy. They do the exact thing that a lot of sports teams do. They play up to their opponents, so they play very, very well against really good teams, and they also play down. So if they play against teams like, no offense to any Redskins fans out there, but if they play teams like the Redskins, they lose. But they play teams like the Broncos or like the Seahawks, and they play absolutely incredible. So it's a really tough thing as a Rams fan to watch that, because I see the potential of that defense. I see the potential of that running game, and I just want them to continue to play incredibly. But the biggest question of it all is, are the Rams going to be staying in St. Louis? Now, for a lot of you people that don't live in St. Louis but still follow football, everybody thinks that the Rams are going to move. They're going to move to LA, and I'd say right now there's probably about a 50-50 shot. I mean, it's really hard to tell because nothing is definite. And I guess if nothing is definite, then there's no chance that they're moving. So it's really hard to tell. One thing that has been going on in St. Louis, there's actually a company called Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and they sponsored a new possible stadium for the Rams. I think it's like, don't quote me on this, but I think it's like $50 million. Or no, God, not 50 million, $50 billion. Some crazy massive stadium. I don't know the exact number, but Enterprise Rent-A-Car was sponsoring that stadium, and that was the whole reason, or at least a reason that the Rams gave the NFL on why they would want to leave, is they were going to they wanted a new stadium. And we had a stadium built in 1995, and right now it's 2015, and that's only 20 years later. I mean, most most NFL franchises do not have stadiums built within 20 years of them, of the different stadiums, which is, it's kind of ridiculous to know that we're going to get a new stadium, but I'm super excited whatever we can do to keep the Rams in St. Louis. And here's the thing, if the Rams leave, they have to have their cool jerseys again. Those bright yellow jerseys with the blue, those were freaking awesome. So I don't have too much information on if they're staying in St. Louis, but I just really hope they are. They are playing the Browns this Sunday, and this is a game that I think is a must-win. I think they're 2-3 right now. I think the NFC West is just up for grabs right now. Seattle and the 49ers are playing tonight. Seattle really is just, they're not looking good. Neither are the 49ers. The Cardinals look like they're in command, but I feel like they could lose it at any time. They don't really have that one or two dominant offensive threats. Yes, Larry Fitzgerald is really good. Yes, Carson Palmer is really good, but they're not as dominant as they once were. It's tough to say that because they're so good and they have been so dominant this year, but I don't know if they can sustain that. Just like last year, they weren't really able to sustain it 100% when I think they lost to Carolina in the wild card game. I think that's what happened. So I think this NFC West division is just really up for grabs. I'm just hoping that the St. Louis Rams can get in on a wild card. Now, I think to get in on a wild card, I really honestly think that an 8-8 record could get you in on a wild card in the NFC West. Now, I think that they can be better than the 49ers. The 49ers are great, but I don't know if they have all the pieces. They're playing just about as good as they can. Seattle, on the other hand, if they keep playing not so well, then I think the Rams might be able to get a little bit better record than Seattle. Seattle has a new defensive coordinator, and that defense just, I don't know if it's different or something, but it just doesn't look super good. So, I don't know how I would personally describe Seattle. I guess I would say a disappointment. I really thought that they would be so much better this year. I thought that they would be their same dominant team. I mean, I'll be honest, when the season first started and they traded for Jimmy Graham, I said they're going undefeated and they're winning the Super Bowl. I thought that was that one piece that they needed, that one offensive threat that you could literally give the ball to or throw the ball to, and he would just make that one play that you needed to have happen. That's really the difference between them and New England in terms of offense. They're both very, very similar. I'm not saying Russell Wilson is Tom Brady, but in terms of their passing game, they both don't have like super incredible receivers except for Gronkowski. Gronkowski is that guy you just throw the ball up to. It's almost like a spray and pray. I mean, you just throw the ball up to him and you hope he catches it. And 9 times out of 10, he does. That's what Rob Gronkowski does. So it's pretty cool that Gronk is able to do that. I don't want to get too much off on a tangent with Seattle. My whole point that I'm trying to make is that I think that the NFC West is definitely up for grabs. I think St. Louis needs to capitalize on the games that are easy to win, like the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns' pass defense is pretty good, and the Rams don't really pass the ball very much. Their run defense is, I'm pretty sure, last in the NFL, and the Rams tend to run the ball a ton. The Rams have really good defense. The Browns' offense, not so much. So I think in terms of numbers, I think the Rams have a pretty good chance at winning this Sunday. Hopefully, they can come through with it. Second thing that I wanted to talk about today is the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, you guys probably know St. Louis Cardinals were eliminated in the NLDS by the Chicago Cubs. I'm not going to comment on the Cubs. I'm not a huge fan. I live in St. Louis. You guys probably know the deal. The Cubs were eliminated from the NLCS by the Mets, I want to say yesterday or the day before. So the Cardinals are probably like the equivalent of the San Antonio Spurs in basketball. They're always good, and you never really think that they're going to be good the next year. It's like, oh, they lost in the NLCS. They're not going to come back next year, and then they do. It's like the San Antonio Spurs. Every year since 2010 or 11, I always was like, oh, next year they're not going to be super good, and they were. And they were always a threat in the West, and they eventually got their championship ring. And, they've had multiple before that. But since about 2010, when I thought that they were going to slow down, they eventually got that. And they beat LeBron James to do it, which is a pretty tough feat in and of itself. So the St. Louis Cardinals always and are consistently competing for a top position. So what do you need to do to consistently compete for that top position? You need to have really good players on your team. And 2 players that the Cardinals have the ability to sign back are Jason Hayward and John Lackey. John Lackey is, I want to say, a 37-year-old pitcher, had an absolutely stellar season and a great postseason. I mean, for the, 5 games that we played, I think, or no, it was 4. Yeah, we lost 3-1. He had a really, really good postseason. He was definitely the most consistent pitcher that we had on the squad. Now, he's 37 years old, so you got to wonder, do you really want to sign him to another deal? So I think my questions to John Lackey, if I was the general manager, would be, hey, listen, how many more years do you want to play? Do you want to pay, or do you want to play 1 more year? Do you want to play 2 more years, or do you want a 5-year deal? I think if he's in the 1 to 2 year ballpark, I think you give him the money that he wants and you sign him. I think if he's in the 4 to 5 year ballpark, you have to bite the bullet and you have to let him go. You have to let him go. He's such a stellar pitcher. He just destroyed us when he was on Boston. Then he came over to our side and just did so well for us. But you can't sign a very, very old pitcher to that big of a deal. And with how he did this season, I would not be surprised if he got some deal like that from another MLB team. The second person that I wanted to talk about was Jason Hayward. Jason Hayward is an absolute stud outfielder. He's played left field, right field, center field, almost every position for us. He's not a super power hitter, but he can really get contact with the ball. He's just a super versatile player. Now, the position that he's in, a lot of people are getting pretty large contracts, and the Cardinals are never really known for spending a ton of money on contracts. I was listening to an interview with John Mozeliak, the general manager of the Cardinals, on the radio the other day, and Mozeliak was talking about how he almost has an itch or an urge to spend money. He wants to make sure that he's able to solidify an outfield position, and I think Jason Hayward really can be that guy. He's a young guy, 26 years old. You sign him to maybe a 5 or 6 year deal. You have him till he's 30 or 31. And even then, baseball players can remain into their prime up until 35, 36, 37. You can look at that with John Lackey and many other baseball players. So I think it's very important that they're able to sign somebody like a Jason Hayward or someone to fill his void. I always think it's nice to be able to re-sign players rather than having to go and get other players, because sometimes the consistency or the chemistry really isn't there. And that's why I kind of think Jason Hayward would be that guy that the Cardinals need to sign. So that's just my opinion on the fact. The next team I want to talk about is the Los Angeles Lakers. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a Lakers fan. You guys have to deal with it. They're not super good right now. They haven't been really good for about the past 3 years. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do some guessing, some season guessing on what they're going to be able to accomplish this year. So, do I think that the Lakers are going to be able to make the playoffs? That's a tough question. Now, if I'm being an optimistic Lakers fan, I'm going to say, yeah, hell yeah, definitely they're going to make the playoffs. But if I'm being a realistic NBA fan, you look at the West this year, you look at the Lakers team. They have so much potential. People like Jordan Clarkson, D'Angelo Russell, Julius Randle, Ryan Kelly might finally have a year where he does something. You got veterans on the team like a Kobe Bryant, like Roy Hibbert now. They're able to, I guess, just prove that they really are good players. Obviously, Kobe doesn't need to do that, but Roy Hibbert kind of does. So do I think that they're going to make the playoffs? No, I don't. I think the Western Conference is too difficult. I think if they were in the East, without a doubt, they would make the playoffs. But in the Western Conference, it's too difficult to make the playoffs with a team that's not that good. It's definitely not guaranteed talent because they haven't played together in unison for one season at all. There's so many new pieces to the puzzle. Now, if you could keep this team, minus a Kobe in maybe 2 or 3 years when he retires, but if you could keep this team for maybe 2 years, maybe in that third year, they make the playoffs and they do some damage. You just got to keep that core together. I think, honestly, the core of Jordan Clarkson, D'Angelo Russell, and Julius Randle need to stick together for years to come because that is going to be a really, really good core. I mean, and again, I'm saying this as a Lakers fan, so really don't take too much from it. So my season guesses are no, they're not going to make the playoffs. I just want to see development from young players. The second thing for the Los Angeles Lakers that I want to talk about is the breakout player. So what player do I think is going to be able to do just super duper well on the Lakers that no one really would have considered he would do super well? The person I'm going to talk about is Julius Randle. Now, most people haven't really heard of Julius Randle or see Julius Randle very much. Well, that's because in his first year, I think the first game of the season, he broke his leg and was out that entire year, which was last year. This year, you could consider him a rookie, honestly, but he's had so much time to watch game, to watch film, to see how everything is done in the NBA that he has a year under his belt, but he really doesn't. He's one of those guys that is going to not act like a rookie, but be in the same boat as a rookie, but he's going to have a little bit more experience than him. And I think his aggressiveness towards the ball, I think, is going to be huge. I think that his confidence is going to be huge. He is such a force down low, yet he's so mobile that I think he can really do some damage for the Lakers. I think the Lakers organization puts big men in perfect positions to do well. I mean, you look at Shaquille O'Neal, you look at Wilt Chamberlain, you look at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, so many. I mean, these right there are probably top 10 centers ever. These players just do so well in the Lakers organization in terms of big men that you got to think that Julius Randle is going to be able to do the same. So I really think that Julius Randle is going to be the breakout player. I would not be surprised if he averages around 15 to 17 points and around 8 to 9 rebounds with 4 or 5 assists. I would not be surprised if he averaged that. Now, people might think, oh, that's not breakout, that's not good. Well, for a first-year player, technically, that's pretty darn good. And I really think that you guys should keep an eye out for Julius Randle. D'Angelo Russell, I'm still a little shaky on him. I'm not gonna put my opinions out for sure yet, but definitely I'm gonna keep an eye on him. So that's really all I have for this show today. I just wanted to get this out here. It's almost like a little test to see if you guys like it, and if you do, definitely let me know. I might try and create like an MP3 file that you guys can download and listen to. Unless you're cool with listening to it just on YouTube, I'll just continue to do this. Like I said, if you guys want to be on the show, definitely let me know. Shoot me a line on Twitter at Mike Mack, MikeMaacc. Let me know. And I'll definitely be sure to check it out. I love to have guests on my show. I mean, there's nothing better than talking about sports. It's just the best thing. I don't know how long these are normally going to last. Right now, this one is around 17 minutes, so maybe around 20 to 30-minute shows. It depends on how much I have to talk about and what we're going to be more so focusing in on each separate week. So I'm going to leave you guys with this, a little summary. I think the Rams are going to stay in St. Louis. I really, really hope that they're going to beat the Browns. I think that they're going to. I think the Cardinals need to sign somebody like Jason Hayward or Jason Hayward himself. I think John Lackey is going to end up leaving. I think the Lakers are not going to make the playoffs this year, but I want to see development through their young guys, and I think that their breakout player is going to be Julius Randle. If you guys enjoyed the show, please let me know in the comment section. If you have any questions you want me to answer or any topics you want me to talk about in the realm of sports, let me know with a comment down below. I'll see you guys in the next episode of Dodging Rams. Peace.